Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming games over this next week for the Nintendo Switch, and it seems following a strong showing just last week that trend continues and we have another great one upon us. So with that luck, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So with 18 or so games releasing just this week, I want to give my usual warning. I don't cover everything here, rather those games that do catch my eye. So if you do think I've missed anything that I should be checking out, let me know in the comments down below. So first up this week, Conarium, or at least that's how I think you say it, but it seems to be for you horror fans. While I don't believe this is necessarily jump scares, more thriller, it's a Lovecraftian story following 4 scientists and they're trying to challenge what we would normally consider the absolute limits of nature. It's set following the events of the book by the name of At the Mountains of Madness, and it seems to be that kind of walking simulator style of terror. I love the visual style here, though it's feeling very almost like Bioshock-esque to me, and it's promising then multiple endings. This one, it also has a 15% launch discount too, which expires the day of release. Next up then, Nuts, and I love the look of this one. It's giving me almost Firewatch vibes in the perspective and the speed of the action, also that location. The idea though, you're spying on squirrels. It's a surveillance mystery set in a forest, and the main tool at your disposal, it seems to be a camera, so you can both watch and also track them. It's fully voice active then to bring whatever the storyline is to life. It's not really giving us much over on the eShop, but it is already out on Steam, and the reviews there, they were for the most part very impressed. Kowloon High School Chronicle now, and this one seems to be a big deal, but honestly, I'd never really heard of it. It's describing itself though as a masterpiece dungeon crawler, and the reviews, they are really good, but those are mostly from when it originally released back in 2004, and that was exclusively in Japan. This is its first English translation, or at least first official one from what I can tell. Promising first person moments though, think RPG elements as well, and I'm also guessing a dash of visual novel. You'll basically take on the role though of a student who also happens to be a treasure hunter, and you're exploring ruins and hunting down monsters. Sounds good to me honestly, so I'll be watching out for reviews, but I'm just curious to see how it stands up, 17 years later. Free-to-play fans, Skyforge now, and I think this one was actually supposed to be released back at the end of last year, but it's finally anyway making its way to the Switch now. I've never played it honestly, it's on a lot of other consoles already. From what I know though, it's an RPG and you'll be battling enemies while on the path to becoming a god. I will probably check it out at release. I mean, it is, free after all, but do know there's some paid packs available as well, which from what I'm seeing in comments, online, stuff like that, it definitely makes advancement easier. So I'm curious to see now, does that lead to pay to win scenarios? Probably the biggest release for me next week then, that is Haven. I've already played this one. It was one of my favourite launch games on the PS5, or at least it came out right around, the console dropping. Coming though from the team who made the Mighty Fury, you might be expecting here some sort of action-packed adventure that's hard as nails. I would say to that, definitely temper your expectations. It's very much an RPG, it's relatively easy, and the game actually tells you that when you start it up. Its main focus is a story about love, rebellion, and freedom. Here though, expect single player as well as 2-player gameplay, but you can expect some minor combat, a whole lot of dialogue, some serious exploration, stunning visuals if they can keep them intact for this Switch build, and then it's all topped off with a great soundtrack too. I'm psyched for it, but I also know this will not be for everyone. Grey Sky is a War of the World story. It's a new third-person stealth adventure. It's dropping this week. Everything about it, I like the sound of the story. It's War of the Worlds, that works for me. The graphics, the locations, more than decent. The pricing, relatively cheap. And then it's from the team that made the surprisingly good Hanwha. That's a horror experience that's available right now on the Switch. Sadly though, the few reviews that do, exist out there, the ones that I could find, they're extremely low scores. Hopefully they are wrong, but it's definitely made me question what for me probably would have been a day one buy to now kind of watching out for reviews and seeing how people take to it. Hopefully though, as more of these reviews do come through, we'll hear some positives. Alongside Haven then, my other most anticipated title of the week, it has to be Blue Fire. This, it debuted in a direct, and the second I saw it, it gave me that kind of like Zelda-esque vibe. You know, it's an adventure, but it's got a heavy focus still on top of that with platforming and combat. That's a combination I will rarely turn down. The story on the eShop, it's not giving us particularly a huge amount to go on, but the general idea, it seems to be you're exploring what is a perished world, and you'll be diving now into temples, you know, exploring these locations, taking on quests, and then even finding a whole lot of loot. The combat though just looks solid to me, or at least what I've seen in the trailer. It's got that kind of like hack and slash mentality, and then it seems they've gone all out on the platforming as well. I'm seeing things from wall jumps and almost then like puzzle sections you need to conquer. Hopefully I can get some coverage out on this one later in the week. And that's the big releases of the week for me. There's still a few more that may turn out to be pretty decent. I'm just not sold quite enough yet. But I'm taking a look right now at Glyph. It appears to be a third-person flying adventure, though it's penning itself as platforming and puzzles. Cultist Simulator, for sure, that one wins the most points for being the strangest game of the week. It's a roguelite deck building experience, but it's promising unholy mysteries and then a 1920s theme. On top of that then, finally, I'm thinking Habroxia 2 as well. This is a side-scrolling shmup, and honestly, it doesn't really seem to be bringing, you know, anything new to the table, but I'm just a sucker for the genre, and, you know, at this budget price point right now, I'll at least check out a few of the reviews and see if it's maybe worth a budget add to the library. Will you be picking up anything this week though, or is this a save your cash kind of week? I think the main two for me, it's got to be Haven and Blue Fire, but I also know many, you're going to start hoarding onto that cash now with some of the releases we have coming up. I think the likes of Mario 3D dropping just next week, and then Persona 5 Strikers shortly after. With that though then, like a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I have linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.